Boom. It says you're live. Okay. Conflicting information. This is why those live shows are always, sometimes, they're very candid, right? So for people that just joined again, I messed up. This is This Weekend Moto, right? So one-man show here. Let's get into some of the big news stories that have happened. We had Super Motocross playoff round 1 where Jet and Deegan pretty much destroyed everybody. But beside, notable mention, Eli Tomac, the destroyer, as I want to call him now, not just beast mode, because those guys are up to par with his beast mode now. It's not so much of him going 3 or 4 seconds faster than everyone anymore. It is him just being the destroyer, right? I kind of like that. So yeah, hey, appreciate you for letting me know on the last one that everything was okie dokie. Anyway, for those of you that I'm repeating myself, Deegan has started a new YouTube channel. He has branched out from his family. He's still going to do that stuff. I am sure of it, but he's already got more subscribers, almost more than me. It's probably going to happen within the next day or so. This kid is on fire, and I hope he continues to do this stuff because this is a platform that is going to allow him to have a lot of outside moto sponsors. That's one of the problems with this sport is we always have to have sponsors that are VP Fuel, Dunlop Tires, Oakley Goggles, and we've seen guys like the Lawrence brothers have Quad Lock and so many other outside sponsors with their watches and whatnot. So this is helping the sport out, and it's also going to help out his pocket as well. So here's this first video of him buying a supercar at 18 years old. Congratulations, mister, but I hope you're buying some Bitcoin with that money as well, because we all know after the election, that sucker's going to go through the roof because we know inflation is freaking also going through the roof. The new iPhone 16 got announced a couple days ago, and it is going to be able to run 120 hertz at 4K, which is great for all of you other kids out there that want to create a YouTube channel and have your moto stuff. You can do your dirt bikes in slow motion. This guy is going to be pretty good. For those out there that play video games, the new PS5 Pro got launched, $700. Don't know if I'd be buying that, but anyway, right? Some of the controversy that happened was with Carter Gray and his 65. So here's a few kids that were jumping it. You got Talon Hinson, Jaden Smart. He was the kid that was jumping the triple last year at one of the Super Motocross playoff rounds. And Carter Gray was the end up getting disqualified. If you've heard my podcast before, you know my thoughts on it. I will let the Moto Academy, some of these other guys, have different thoughts on this as well. Matt Burkeen has done a decent job of covering this stuff. I know I've used his video, so appreciate you, dude, for allowing me to do that. But yeah, no, a lot of kids were jumping this sucker. They didn't do it in the main event, right? They were told at the last minute they weren't allowed to jump it. My views, even though I said I wasn't going to say anything about it, is essentially just if they're not allowed to jump it, have the lights flash on the jump or make them go around it. Because again, it's hard for even a professional rider to practice on a Supercross track. You have to have your pro card, but now we're allowing little kids on 65s learn how to jump and learn how to go through Supercross rhythm sections firsthand. So yeah, do I think that these guys really shouldn't be on the track? Potentially, but it is great for the sport and inspired so many different people. So here, let's listen to what the Moto AJ had to say on this as well.
Here, and I would love to hear your guys' opinions because I'm sure I could be convinced otherwise on this. I think that the 65 jumping the double at Charlotte SMX, I think more riders should have been doing that double. I honestly feel like most of the riders out there should have been doing that double. Didn't look too difficult. I think the dangerous part is that these little guys are just learning Supercross skills. They're just learning those style of obstacles. Why would they be racing? Why would they be racing that type of track yet in front of a huge crowd? And why would they be racing it televised? I think the huge crowd and televised and the racing is the dangerous part. I don't think the jumping of...
Okay, so AJ is basically saying that they're young kids, right? And they're going to go huck stuff because you're racing it and you want to beat other people and they're not mature enough to be able to make their own decision. Hence why AMA should not have said, hey, just don't jump it. They should have made it apparent that they couldn't jump it, having guys on there, cross flags, whatever. Because again, these are young kids. They're not mature enough to make their own decisions. That's why they have a guardian, right? I believe they should have been able to jump the jump. It was great for spectators and everything. But if you decide it's too dangerous, you don't want somebody to get landed on, then for that, make it to where there's no chance that they can jump it. Hey, we had the Supercross schedule get leaked here, right? I believe there is no Nashville on here, and they are going to Pittsburgh in April, right? Dun, dun, dun. Interesting. It's hard to see, but there we have it. The Supercross schedule has been leaked. Oh, that was interesting to see happen. Bunch of Californias. First 3 rounds are in California. One of these, San Diego, Anaheim. Where's the third Anaheim? I don't know if I see the third Anaheim, but there is the Pittsburgh right there. And then we're going to have the finale at Utah again, which I do think that it should be in Vegas here. But as far as the points go, it is getting close. Chase Sexton is still winning. Jet Lawrence, who missed out a good portion of the motocross series, is now only 4 points behind. Ooh, and this is double points, right? So there is freaking 50 points up for grabs. So theoretically, somebody like Justin Hill could all of a sudden start winning this sucker if he was to win, right? I mean, hypothetically. Okay. Super pumped for the double points and the triple points here. This is incredible. For 250s, Deegan, only 8 points for separating him and Levi, which is crazy. Tom Vial, you know, I'm a big fan of Tom Vial. 13. Julian Beaumer, he's got his his boner going. He's ready to do some racing for sure. Same thing with Joe Shimoto. And there is a couple things. There's a little bit of some more controversy with what Deegan said on the podium to RJ, was basically, hey, you shouldn't be revving your bike to me. And here's a little kickback. RJ said, found myself in danger and went for a ride. Boom. And dun, dun, dun. This is what he meant by went for a ride. Watch him triple off. Boom. And nails the concrete wall there. Yeah. Yes, it would cost lots of money to have much more tough blocks on here. But dude, this is a concrete wall. This is one of the issues that I kind of have with these speedway tracks is the concrete barriers, right? Along with the split starts, it's fast, right? Josh Hill talks a little bit about this as well. He's saying, hope Justin Barcia is okay after he grazed one of the tough blocks. And he actually goes on to say that Feld does an unmatched job in professionalism. I agree. They're the biggest promoter for Supercross whatsoever, but you had lots of guys not be able to race the race. Like Jason Anderson got hurt in qualifying, and a lot of guys ended up going down because of that false start there. But his 2 cents are, why don't we make the tough blocks triangle shape? That's a good idea, so that these guys could ride off of them, as opposed to the point of you barely hit something and you go down. It's like in MotoGP, if a water bottle flew onto the track and you're doing 200 kilometers an hour, you hit one of those things and here comes head shake, and then the bike goes all sideways, and then you're like, oh crap, gotta keep it WFO to try to make something happen. Yeah, the tough blocks, yeah, I don't know. I could even see eventually, hypothetically, the sport eventually going with some like hybrid foam. We've seen it with the whoops to try to make it to where it's a little bit softer for these guys, because I had Jan Pankar on our podcast, who is actually going to be the MXGP pick for gosh, why am I having such a hard time pronouncing stuff? With the Slovenian team right next to Tim Geiger, right? He did really well at Turkey here, but he was saying how dangerous Supercross was compared to motocross. And I thought that was interesting because the speeds are quite a bit higher in motocross. And have you seen the MXGP tracks? They're no joke. Cross rut all the time, different terrain from sand to slippery to just choppy stuff. But these guys are going, Supercross is its own animal. Hence why the majority of the money goes to there. But we also had some leaks. So this is where we're going to get into the show, where we're talking a little bit about Kenny, because I know Robert was saying what's going on with Roczen and his Kickstarter. Well, hypothetically, and I guess that word doesn't actually work here, right? That was just a filler. So shame on Johnny here. But Progressive is now the title sponsor for Honda. And I believe, does this show Motocross Action show KTM as well? Yeah, it's on the back of their fender. So not only are they on the Twisted Tea stuff, but now they're on some of the bigger bikes. KTM, the champion. And then you've got the standing champion of Jet Lawrence out here. Interesting fact. And they're also the title sponsor for Super Motocross. So that leaves Kenny with going, that's what Kenny was able to bring to that Twisted Tea, was he was able to bring a lot of money with Progressive. And my opinion is he's losing that. That team is going to lose that, because that's being spread too thin. You can't, even though Progressive is a giant insurance company, right? They're about kind of defrauding people and making money, right? They hope that you buy insurance and then you never use it. That's how insurance companies make money. And then you file a claim, it gets, whether it's hail or whatever, they're going to try not to pay you, right? But you have to have it. Interesting how insurance works. But my point being, you can't sponsor the entire field. You don't have that much money. So it appears the money is being siphoned from the Suzuki onto Honda, the series, and the KTM squad. Where does that leave Kenny? Well, it probably leaves him with the likes of being able to do different stuff, which is what he did a few years ago, where he tested a bunch of different bikes, including the Stark. And Kenny is here making a Suzuki 10 times better, putting technology on, and basically now he can time travel if he hits 88 miles an hour. But in order for him to hit 88 miles an hour, he's got to have a shock that doesn't blow up, right? So I predict we're going to see Kenny be on a different manufacturer coming as early as 2025, right? And who makes this electric start? Well, it's actually these guys with his Panther Motorsports. They make Suzuki electric starts for about $1,500 if you want to turn your motorcycle into it. So that is an interesting concept, but that's one of the cool things that Kenny can do, being not sheerly from a factory-backed team, is he's able to play around with some stuff. And we know he's going to do the World Supercross stuff, and he is the defending champion there, and he is joined by Colt Nichols, right? And Colt Nichols used to be on the beta squad, but he ended up moving around, and now he's on this team. But there's no Progressive. Well, actually, there is Progressive on this bike as of right now, but I'm guessing that's the contract is only good through 2025. And yes, Freeze is returning to try to take Kenny out and Dino and everybody he can. It's going to be fun to watch, but at the same time, hopefully everyone stays upright and they don't crash. But I know a lot of people that just want to see accidents happen. This was also what's going on in California. Some massive fires here. And the whole Moto Concepts team was shooting. I believe this is Freezy right here, getting ready for World Supercross. I kind of want to be like, if you're the trainer there, what is the air quality like? How is that going to sit in your lungs by doing 200 beats per minute for 2 20-minute main event practice sessions, and you're soaking up all this ash here? That makes for some good photos, but honestly, we've all been to stadiums before where they don't open up them. And we've seen riders even post on the internet where they're like, dude, my lungs burn, I've got a headache. And it's not a good scenario with that stuff, with having that much carbon dioxide in there. So I kind of want to say that these guys didn't end up riding that long, because it's just not healthy for you. I will get to some of the comments here as well, guys. Okay, hold on. One comment said no Daytona. Here, let me go back to the leaked deal here, and here, let me try to zoom in a little bit. Why is it zooming in Facebook? Facebook, I don't like you. This 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And yeah, I don't see a Daytona. No, right there, maybe. Richard James, but the venue, it would say Daytona, right? Daytona Moto Speedway. Interesting, right? If that is true, no Daytona, that would be freaking crazy. And A Human says that Could they not have padded that wall? That's my point, is it's probably going to cost a crap ton to pad that wall for RJ. And that is a problem safety wise, especially with how fast they go. Let's be honest here. A lot of times, sometimes we see some terrific accidents that happen off the side of the track here. So that's one of the sketchy part. I do like the whole concept of super motocross, but there is some stuff that needs improving as always. But they do try to do their best to try to improve stuff, like we saw this year with some of the red flag accusations, and guys got docked right away for it, but we never saw a winner. But here, getting back to what we're talking about. Oh, this was interesting. Here, let me hear this. Dun, dun, dun. I gotta have it play through because of the stupid thing. While that's loading here, let's hear what AC had to say on his podcast as far as rider salaries should be public. I am so for AC being a spokesman for freaking just the sport. He's very well spoken. He was a damn good rider. He was a little phenom, and he was able to win a championship in the 250 class. It was unfortunate that his career ended up getting caught somewhat short, but I believe he's around 26, which is usually around the ages that some of the top tier guys end up quitting. Dungey, Carmichael, Stewart. But here, watch what he says.
Yeah, 100%. I can tell you, people who don't know what I do, and once we get into the discussion, and the thing that blows them away is how much money that our top guys can make every time. So, and again, I think it's not that it's the only thing, but like I said, all these kids that want to be in the NFL or Major League Baseball or the NBA, part of that's aspirational too. They want to be those guys that are making those mega $1 million contracts. So why not start going, hey, look, you can make real money racing SMX.
Dave, I will say that I am on board, and I am going to do my best to get the riders' salaries public. How do you feel about that? Are we going to be squaring up?
No, I think we should.
It's going to be embarrassing at first, because anybody besides that are outside of the top 5, it's going to be like, oh, you're only making 75 grand a year, or, hey, you have zero salary. You just have a bonus contract. That's where things are going to be a little bit iffy here. And we've got some other comments going on here. Robert saying that the schedule is not on there because of, hey, too crazy of a crowd potentially. And hey, we don't know for sure if this is actually the real schedule, but September 6th, right? So it could be, but that would be interesting if there's no Daytona. We saw what happened last year at Daytona. A lot of guys jumped the fence and just almost took out some riders because the track was still, the race was still going on. So that is incredibly interesting there. We have an actual official schedule being released for Moto America for their series here. What is my favorite one that they're going to? Honestly, I don't know. I can't answer that. But there's for there, and there's a lot of controversy on the tires here. This is one of the PC teams where they're taking a standard, is this the 32, just a mid compound tire, and then they're turning it into somewhat of the hard scoop tire, which is the sand tire, by cutting off the back of the knobbies and potentially using a tire cutter. We saw Sexton do the same thing as well. So that is interesting. Again, on my podcast, we had Jan talk about that tire, and he said, dude, it was amazing. It's a tire that works in almost all situations. The only problem is it's so hard. So if you're riding a track that ends up being super blue groove, you'll start to slip a little bit. But other than that, it is a tire that works in all conditions. Right. So that was cool. And we had some interesting stuff going on with Joey Savacci now, where he has been cut from the team. So not only did they have little Evan Ferry cut, well, now they've got Joey cut because he is not eligible to race the 250. And they developed a 250 bike. I don't know why that they decided to develop a 250 bike versus a 450 first off, because truthfully, I would have started trying to develop an electric bike. I know. Everyone out there screaming, I have my own reasons behind the electric, right? Privateers for one, and me just selfishly, it's easier to maintain and work on. Hence why I have been getting bigger into these bicycle stuff because, you know, you kind of just charge the gears and you're good to go, right? But I love 450s and I love the smell, and I'm super stoked for the Ducati, right? You know, so whatever comes out first, if it's the Ducati or if it is freaking the Honda electric bike, that's probably going to be the next bike that I bite before before I just stop borrowing bikes from people. But yes, I do have a review on this motorcycle that I have been editing, right? So it is coming. It is coming. Yes, we have another comment here saying that they took Jet goggles off. I remember covering that at Daytona where people, just crazy fans, went there and took it off. And Jet was very respectable to make sure that he didn't start a fight with a fan, because the fans are the ones that pay his paycheck. And that is something that he has learned from a very early age. The same thing with Hayden, hence why Hayden never gets really offended by any of the small talk. And that's why it's so hard to get under that kid's skin, is because he's so, I want to say, experienced with the internet drama that it's not going to startle him whatsoever. Here, what else do I got going on for this week's show here? Oh, I do have to say, for today's video sponsor, Coach, I know, sorry, it started at 20 minutes here. He is looking for guys for his 2025 squad. You're going to get hookups with some top tier sponsors that have affiliated himself with. He's had many riders graduate from this. You know, he's got sponsors from 6D, Garmin, and his energy fuel stuff, which I freaking love, the nutrition aspects of it. It was Adam Cincerello has been a graduate from this. Jeremy Martin has, Styles Robertson's, Jordan Bailey, and then some off-road guys of Mike Wachowski and Charles Munnell and Ben Parsons. So make sure I have the link in that description that you check so that you can start seeing if you can become part of the squad. I wish I had Coach Rob when I was trying to go WFO, because he's helped me so much. You know, my VO2 max is now at a 61, which is the highest it's ever been for myself. And I'm 34 years old, right? So thank you, Coach, for helping out as always. And here, let me get to some of the, I think I really covered all this week here. So here, I'll take the last couple minutes to look at some of the comments here. Okay. So Daniel says that his channel's not new. He just hasn't posted anything for a while. Well, okay. All right. Semantics, right? But he has one, and he's probably going to start posting a lot more. If I was him, I know that's what I would be doing for sure, right? And I finally just became aware of it. So maybe it's the YouTube algorithm that messed up, that hasn't showed me that, or maybe I just live under a bridge, right? Is that the terminology? The SMX championship should be the 3 rounds and should be Daytona, one of the pro motocross rounds, and a playoffs and a final in Vegas. I don't disagree with that. Truthfully, I think the Super Motocross Championship should be 5 Supercross races, then a couple motocross races, then 5 more Supercross races, and then a couple finales, right? It should only be about 15 races. It should not be this 33 races. And my boy Jace asked a lot of the guys here. Let me see if I can find it real quick up here while I am looking at some of the other comments here. Can I spell gypsy? Oh God, apparently here. Well, you can watch it as I do it. There we go. Did I spell it right? Okay. He talked beast mode. No. People, he was talking about too many races. This is it right here.
31 races, but the economics of it, just to play the Feld and MX Sports side, is that.
Okay. Yes, it is all about money. And that's what NBC, they're giving the main portion of the $10 million for the super motocross stuff. They need to have this much coverage for it to happen. But we've seen the big hitters from KTM marketing department to be like, it's too many races, right? And the manufacturers are the guys that pay all the salaries for the riders and all the bonuses. And so if they're end up not being happy with having to spend millions of dollars for extra races, well, we will definitely see a change. But it is all about money. It is a very small sport, and we are at mercy of some of these big hitters and big production companies like NBC. But here,
the huge TV money that came in, I think it was like $7 million or something, was basically like predicated on 31 rounds. And it's
Then MX Sports and Feld were going to split the other 3-ish.
something that we've spoken about a bunch of times on the podcast, just trying to brainstorm like ways where it's like, okay, we need to do 31 races to have a season with playoffs. Have you thought about what you could do? Like, even the other day, we were just spitballing ideas of like, maybe you just get 4 rounds throughout the entire year where it's like you drop your worst races. So you get an injury, you have something go wrong, you can take a race off, and you've got 4 of those in your sleeve for the entire season. Like, is there anything creative that you guys have thought about that we could implement? Because I just think the benefits of the 31 races like really are there in terms of like the sport big picture. It's 30.
Okay, we'll get
Biggest thing you gotta look. So Chase has done every single round, and now we're going to a high-speed track where they obviously want to look after our safety very well, and they do, but we're trying to set up a bike that's supposed to handle enough G-force to get to the rhythm lanes, but then it's got to be soft enough for the fast sections, and it can create a lot of sketchy moments of stuff being too stiff or on a side note feeling and stuff like that, and we're at the end of our season, so for stuff, people like me, Eli, guys who've had injuries, it's not too bad because we've had that break, we've had time off where Chase has still done every single round, so he's obviously... I think anyone would be tired after doing already how many rounds, you know? So I think it's, if we just mainly just cut the rounds down, I think it would make it a lot safer for other riders too, because then at least for these last ones where you need the energy, you'll have that because you're not going through how many other rounds before. That's what we want to try and do this for a long time. And yeah, because we love it.
Yeah, for me, I think like he said, it's tough to really put a lot. And I want, after you put so much emphasis on Supercross and motocross combined, it's hard to rebuild that for these 3 races. So I don't know. It's just tough. I think at the end of the day, it's going to take the top however many 7, 8, 9 riders to come together and to say we're not racing this much. But at the end of the day, you want the sport to grow. So I see both sides. But as a racer, you don't want to see guys getting injured that you want to race. You want them to be the.
They're at mercy of the manufacturer. The manufacturers say you have to be there. Boom. That's why Ken Roczen, with him going out on his own and bringing different sponsors, helps out so much. But here, we'll finish
the whole season. And yeah, it's cool that everyone comes back for these last 3 races. But
the only reason why they're coming back to the races is because they can make just as much money, basically double their salaries inside of 3 races. It's a no-brainer. That's one of those things where we've all been there. If you run a marathon or whatever, this is mile 20 where you're just like, okay, I'm ready for it to be over with, but boom, I want that stupid dinky little medal, right? But these guys are getting, here's 500 grand, $1 million, 65,000. Of course they're going to do it. That's the sad thing, is that these guys are tired, right? It's too many races. Brian Deegan says somewhat what I said: 15 rounds of Supercross, 4 to 6 outdoors, and 3 SMX. Okay, that's quite a bit more than what I did. That's can I do math right? Okay, that's 24, 25-ish rounds, and then it needs to be recognized on SportsCenter and other major sports channels. More time for the riders to recover and go through other massive media obligations like going to Tonight Show and other things. Dude, that is huge, right? Because the travel and media stuff takes a toll on these guys as well. We've all been to races before where the guys that are sitting there signing autographs, they look tired. They want to just go into their deal, get in their cold shower, or just hang out and just vision themselves about something that they're going to do that could potentially kill them in the next hour or so. It's hard to turn on the fans, turn on that mindset of, hey, I'm getting close to the fans, and then now I need to turn that mind space on to protect myself racing at 100%. Mikey, you're late to the show. Yes, it looks as if the leaked schedule looks as if potentially there is no Daytona, right? Unfortunately. And there was another comment here that I wanted to cover just briefly. Where did it go? I had it up here. Yeah, okay. I can't pronounce her name, dude, but I will try. Okay. Often Verena. That sound nowhere near what it was possibly going to be. So they basically want just as much money and with less races. Yes, and they deserve it. They 100% deserve more money for the sport, but they've got to get more, what is it? They've got to get more sponsors involved. And that's basically what Jace is talking about. Well, no, that's basically what Brian is talking about as far as having other media obligations, right? With the Tonight Show and everything of that nature. And I believe Sexton, it'll be incredible if he wins one of these races because he's tired, dude. He's burnt out, right? It's hard to give it your all when you're burnt out. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see a resurgence of Webb and Kenny this next weekend because they've had so much time off, right? But there's one thing that I want to cover here because this was on the likes of what Jet was saying as far as his suspension here. And Matt Burkeen, dude, I love your stuff, man. You've done so good here, but where is it? Here it is. Look at this. All these sections that are causing riders. This was the gnarly whoop roller section. Here's Hunter. Ooh, little huckabuck. Because, yeah, it's hard to set up a bike that is going to be stable at speed and then also be able to take the massive G-forces of those rhythms, right? So what are you wanting to set the bike up for is very, very interesting. But, hey, I love the sport completely and everyone around it. Only 4 guys made it to every round. Oh, yeah. Interesting. Only 4 guys made it to every round. Alone, that speaks volume. Yes. But again, it's all about money, right? And I'm sure Feld and MX Sports would definitely make the series less because if they could get the same amount of money and have to go to less races, that's less money for them to spend because it is incredibly expensive to rent out Angel Stadium and get everything set involved and hire all the personnel to build the track and whatnot. MX Sports, they might need that many races for motocross because of they're getting money from the track. So the more tracks they have, the more rounds they have, they could potentially make some more. But if they collaborate, if that's even a word, with collaborate with Feld, and this is a super motocross stuff, which is what they're trying to do, they could share those profits, right? But nobody wants to give money away. If you're used to a certain amount, you're not wanting to do stuff for less. Same thing with the riders and also the organization. And I perceive that eventually we're going to see a one rule book. It's not going to be super motocross rules, then motocross rules, then supercross rules. It's all going to be just one. But hey, I appreciate every single one of you for staying tuned for this live show, and make sure you check out Coach Rob's application here for being on the elite team. If you're just a weekend warrior or you're trying to go pro, I guarantee you he can help you out. He is full of freaking information when it comes to sports psychology, along with just nutrition and how you should rest and whatnot. So definitely go check that out. And hey, stay tuned. There's more coming. I'm going to drop the video on the Triumph review and then also the Lines review here once I get some emails back from some people. But hey, keep it WFO. Who's calling me?